What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Day One Radio right here on Live Hip Hop Daily. I'm Maurice Garland in here with my man BP. What's happening, man?
Ain't nothing, man. Can't complain. Been a long month already. Looking forward to this little break.
It's been a long-ass year. It's been a good year, but I didn't hear anybody say nothing like, oh, goddamn, man, it's already... You know what I'm saying? June. It's already November. This year went by fast. It's been a long-ass year. But
this year been 3 years, man. But before we jump into the interview with our guest, man, we got to give a shout-out to our dearly departed brother, man. Combat Jack passed away a year ago today, man. It seems like longer than a year, like we were saying, man. So I liked they had the Combat Jack Day all over social media, man. A lot of podcasts, a lot of interviewers or whatever are doing what they do because of that brother, man. So rest in peace, Reggie Osei, and thoughts and prayers still go out to his family and whatnot as well. So yeah, but as you see, if you're watching us on YouTube and if you're listening, as you read in the description, we have one of the few times we have a return guest in the building.
Yeah. David Banner's one.
David Banner, Killer Mike, Raheem Shabazz. I think that's about it.
Okay, all right, cool.
That's only the serious brothers get to come back more than once.
And it's appropriate that it's this man, being that we just talked about Reggie Osei, because, you know, this brother that we got on the show today, like, this is like one of the first podcasts. I don't even know if we were calling them podcasts back then anyway, you know what I'm saying?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we're calling, but we got Tariq Nasheed in the building, man. What's going on, man?
Good, brother? I'm in Atlanta, man. It's raining. I got on my player coat.
Yeah.
I'm here. You know, I'm doing what I do.
For sure, most definitely. So you in town for the Mink Slide show?
Yeah, man. My group Mink Slide, we're doing a concert this Saturday here in Atlanta at Center Stage Theater. So we're gonna have a real good time. I came down early. The rest of the group will be here tomorrow. So we're going to have a good time out here. A lot of folks are coming through, and everybody needs to go to minkslide.com and get their tickets to come on through, too.
Most definitely, yeah, man. Y'all must go ahead and get your tickets, man. Go have a good time. Absolutely. This Saturday. APX will be on the show, friends of the show.
Absolutely.
Shout out to them. For sure. So, yeah, man, like I was saying, we was chopping up over email, man. I just wanted to get into some of the stuff that's going on this year, man. Some of the stuff that's going on now, and I know you speak a lot about, well, before we even get into that, you jumped into the music thing.
Yeah.
The Mink Slides because of the lack of representation from a lot of us with that funk thing.
Yeah, man, a lot of stuff I do, man, is really, I do it because there's a lack of. When I started writing books, at the time, around 1999, 2000, most of the relationship books were on some Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, Kiss Your Woman's Ass 3 times a day. It was real simpish at the time. And nobody was really throwing some real good game out there. And I kept trying to find books, because this was before the internet was really popular, so cats had to read. So I wanted to find some books to kind of sharpen the game up a little bit, and there were none. I'm like, okay, there's a void here, so let me write some stuff. Let me write some of the stuff I know, the mistakes that I made, and let me see if people can learn from that. So I wrote a book called The Art of Mackin' in '99. I put it out in 2000, and it became a huge bestseller. And that kind of kicked off the quote-unquote pickup artist movement. The white cats started jumping on it, and then they kind of, did their thing with it. And then even when I did the Hidden Colors movies, that was because there was a lack of movies talking about our history in a constructive way. Every time they talk about black history, they always talk about it in the context of civil rights or slavery. Yeah. They don't say anything about what happened to black people before slavery. So I wanted to do something as far as that because there was just nothing out there. So that's when I did the Hidden Colors thing. That picked up.
For sure. I wanted, speaking of the music thing, I think right now, especially talking about singing R&B and all of that, we got Jacquees.
Yeah.
Our guy from out here in Atlanta. It's proclaiming himself to be the king of R&B. I
think you called him king of the soy milk generation or something.
And I met Jacquees before at the airport down in Miami. Real good dude. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he is.
And that goes, again, back to why I did the Mink Slide Project. The Mink Slide Project, if you listen to it, it sounds like a record that was made in the 80s and 90s, and it was very deliberate because I wanted to pay homage to that. Yeah. We have to be, as black folks, we have to learn how to pay homage to the elders. We have to pay homage to the people who paved the way before us. That's how you maintain the game. And the album, we even named it Egyptian Musk because of the oils that was popping back in the day. So it was all about paying respect to that genre. So when Jacquees comes up and says, and steps to Keith Sweat and says that's something you don't do at all. I don't care if you try to quantify it by saying this generation. No. at all. You don't do that at all.
It was like, I saw it, you know, it was like, it was just very unnecessary. On top of the disrespect, like it was like just unnecessary more than anything, man.
Because you will never see a Justin Bieber run up to Mick Jagger talking about he's the king of anything. You won't see artists in the mainstream, quote unquote, do that to legends. So we have to show that same respect to legends so that we can maintain the game correctly.
I want to know, it's like, because like being that, you know, me and B, we've been in music journalism for most of our adult lives. Like, do you think some of that falls back on, you know, some of us that are creatives out here, black professional creatives, getting caught up so much and like, oh, I need to innovate, stay present, think about the future, and not doing enough of like, hey man, don't forget about this right here. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gotta love it, but at least, you know, let me sit you down and tell you about it. I think when you see somebody like a Jacquees act like that, it's obviously ignorance. You know what I'm saying? And out of that ignorance, the disrespect comes. But I think I don't know if somebody sat him down like, hey man, I'm going to sit you down and listen to this first Keith Sweat, which is a certified classic. Right. I'm going to sit you down and listen to the rest of his catalog. I'm going to sit you listen down like he's produced cut clothes, he's produced this. Like, this is why this man is where he's at.
Before you answer that, I want to say, did any of y'all, because I saw the clip, I don't know if I saw the whole clip. To me, it felt like a borderline setup. Like, they had interviewed Jacquees before. They was interviewing Keith Sweat. It seemed like antagonizing type thing, because I would like to see the whole clip.
Well, they kind of, you know, the cameraman walked up on Keith, and Keith said, "Hey, don't ask no janky question." And Keith he knew he was coming with something. Yeah. And the guy wanted to get a sound bite, but Jacquees overheard it, then ran over there. So you know, they captured the whole thing. But you know what the problem is? You got social media. Social media, you get a lot of followers, and a lot of times followers don't necessarily translate into sales. Right. All right. A lot of cats underestimate that. Also, on social media, people have a tendency to gas you up.
Oh yeah.
On social media, they'll either gas you up a lot or they'll take shots at you a lot, one or the other. And a lot of times when somebody's on social media gassing you up, they put extras on it so they can, you know, get a retweet or something. Right. And a lot of cats start taking heed to that, and they start internalizing that, like, damn, I am great. I am the best, because cats will be like, man, Jacquees, you're the hottest, you're the king of R&B, Jacquees. That sounds like some chicks told him that. And if you keep hearing that, you start low-key believing it, then you think you can run up on Keith Sweat. I'm the real king. So social media has a lot to do with that. This is why we got to learn how to kind of interact without the social media machine so much.
That's true. And, you know, speaking of that, shout out to Tory Lanez and Royce the 5'9". That was the shortest beef in hip-hop history.
Is it squash now or what?
I think Tory either got sober or somebody spoke to him and was like, this is not the guy to be talking crazy to. At all. So he, at 4:23 in the morning, he posted that him and Royce spoke. It was a progress was made in the conversation, and they good. I can respect that.
I can respect it too. He know.
Yeah. He know. If you know, you know.
Exactly. Again, that goes back to social media. The social media is creating these Tekashi type people who think they can just talk reckless online, and then you got some older cats who don't really play that online thing. Right. Yeah. And they will see you in person in real life, and there will be consequences. So a lot of people... Even with Keith Sweat ain't really the dude to step to like that. If you look at that clip, Keith Sweat looked like he was holding back a slap. Keith Sweat is legendary in the game.
Jacquees is like barely 5 feet tall.
You can see that's what was going on in Keith's mind. He's like, okay, should I? You dig? So certain people you don't play with like that.
Nah, not at all. Not at all, man. We're in Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, the big game will be here in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of today. We found out that after all these black people had allegedly turned down performing with Maroon 5, Travis Scott decided that he was going to go ahead and perform with them during the halftime show.
I haven't heard that one.
Yes,
wow.
that was it's confirmed. Okay. He is a Kardashian after all.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah.
But one of the homies, friend of the show, Ivy, asked me. She was like, "So, what is the difference between what JD is doing, because he's doing a whole week of performances and he's bringing out a lot of people, and what Travis Scott did? Because people was really talking bad on Travis Scott, but I'm like, do you see One is at the halftime. They both have something to do with the NFL.
But I think the JD thing, it has to do more with the crowd that's here. He's going to just kind of take advantage of the people that's here because it's not directly associated with the NFL. So I think that makes a difference. You're going to utilize and capitalize off of a crowd that's already going to be here. And I can rock with that. Yeah. I can rock with that because they do it to us all the time, you know. True. So, you know, I can rock with that.
How do you feel about, you know, us can't stand on something and somebody's gonna take the check at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, and that's why we have to create
the opportunity.
They're gonna take the check. The opportunity equals check.
I don't even think they get indirectly.
Right.
Because I don't think they even get paid to perform at the Super Bowl.
Right, but and you do make a good point because sometimes they don't even take money. And I will concede that sometimes we just like to be around people in the dominant society so we can be the token Negro. So a lot of us don't even care about money. It's like, okay, we made it because we're in now. So we've transcended race and we're the token black friend. So there's a lot of things that we have among us that we need to rectify so that we can get on code. That's the thing. We don't know how to really stay on code when it comes to something, whereas other groups, they do.
Like, I'm pretty sure you explained what that means because I've been listening to your show for years, but briefly, sometimes when I explain that idea of code to people, they're like, if you can briefly for people that are not familiar with that idea, you know what I'm saying, what do you mean when you say that black folks need to get on code?
Absolutely. The reason why black people globally are dominated by systematic white supremacy, it is not because of military, it is not because of numbers, because white people are less than 10% of the global population. It is because white people globally and the white supremacists know how to get on code, meaning a white person who believes in white supremacy in America, if they were to go to Australia, him and an Australian white supremacist will understand how to react around black folks. That's called a code. When they walk into a room, they get into code mode. They know what to say, what not to say in order to keep power. They know how to not snitch on each other. They know how to keep secrets. They know how to go into a jury room and all look at each other and get on the same code in order to maintain systematic racism. We don't know how to do that. Black folks, we get in a room, we get off code with each other. We start bickering about the most little and mundane things. We get into a room like, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Hebrew. We get into all these differences and we don't get on code. And when you become confused, other people can come and take you over. So the fact that we don't have an empowerment code, that has been the biggest detriment to black society. So by code, we should have thought, speech, and patterns that will empower us no matter what differences we have. And we don't have to be in a room with each other to do that. A code is universal. So that's what we mean by having a code.
For sure. So I feel like a lot of times we kind of fall for the banana in the tailpipe a lot of times, and that's why we don't stay on code, even if we are, because there are certain things that will bring us together for an amount of time.
Right.
And then after, the hype is gone and when the next thing happens, we kind of go back to our separate corners and go on living our lives, man. So how, for an example, this crime reform bill.
Yes.
A lot of people are giving, people don't really want to give props to Trump and all of them for it, but a lot of people are, and they're saying that it benefits us without looking deeply into it. And that's another thing. Like we jump at giving props to people who don't give a damn about us anytime we can.
Because they do a sleight of hand trick. They say, well, we're going to do criminal reform, and that's going to help black people. Watch. And it's assumed trickle-down benefits because, number one, that would assume that all black people are criminals, which is a negative. Number two, criminal reform is for everybody, and they have criminal reform because a lot of white people are getting caught with drugs and opioids, so they want to have lighter sentences on them. Also, Donald Trump's family is under investigation. They're talking about putting Trump's family in jail. Some of Trump's colleagues are already in jail, so of course he's going to be for crime reform. They about to go to jail. So they want lighter sentences. So we got to stop falling for the damn banana in the tailpipe. It has to be tangible things specific for black folks. See, we get scared to ask for things specifically for black folks. See, they play this game of people of color, minorities. We should stop using those terms altogether. Those are trick terms, and they've been tripping us up for the last 50 years.
I hear that, and people have argued with me on social media and whatnot, saying that, well, if we don't say people of color, what should we say? And I'm just like,
black.
could be. I had a conversation with a guy who was white on some business stuff, and he starts, my wife, is a woman of color, and yada, 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 and starts breaking down the things that, she had to overcome and accomplish. And I go online, and I'm researching, this man's wife is Chinese.
Exactly. See,
technically, she has color, but come on.
Exactly. When they say people of color, they know that they're running a game on us because they make it seem like these other groups have some kind of camaraderie with us, and they don't. And that's the trick that black people need to understand. These other people of color and immigrant groups, they have worked against us directly for the last 50 years. We have no camaraderie with them because they've never done anything for us in the last 50 years. And I ask black people all the time, you can point to what black people have done for immigrant groups in the last 50 years.
1,000%.
Dr. King, the sister who was running for governor here, her whole platform was immigration. The brother down there in Florida who was running for governor, Gillum, his whole platform was immigration. Obama's platform was immigration. He's done all types of things, DACA, all that stuff for immigrant groups. Nobody can name one single thing we have benefited from these other immigrant groups. They've come over here and taken the resources and disrespected us from top to bottom. There was a story that came out today up in the college. I don't know what city this is. Lehigh. What city is that in, by the way?
I believe it's somewhere in New York, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you see that right there. I just tweeted that. A Chinese immigrant student had a black roommate. He was up there writing the N-word all over documents. The Chinese immigrant was already charged with racial harassment. Then he got charged again for attempted murder because he was trying to poison the black dude. So we don't understand that people of color thing is a trick bag for us because these people identify with white supremacy.
Pennsylvania,
okay.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So this just happened. Also, with this immigration thing, people are talking about the border. There's a lot of Hispanic cats who come here and start joining up with white supremacist groups like the Proud Boys, the Nazi lowriders, the Mexican Mafia. They align with the Aryan Nation out there in L.A. So we have to really understand what these groups are about and stop falling for the trick bag.
Like, do you think folks are starting to or black people specifically are trying to bleed into that person of color thing because they're like, well, shit, calling myself black ain't shit. That should get me knocked over the head more than it helps me any damn way.
Yeah. See, we think if we say we're not black, if we claim something else, that systematic racism is going to lighten up on us, and it just doesn't work like that. That's why you got these niggas looking like Akon talking about they Taino and Hispanic and all this old bullshit. You dig? That's the problem. They're claiming all this old stuff. That's not going to stop white supremacy. You got to be bold with your blackness. You got to stand up and say, okay, this is who I am. Remember, when we were doing that in the 60s, we were very bold with our blackness. They backed off of us for a while. You got to understand, in the 60s, early 70s, they weren't messing with black folks because we wore our blackness like a badge of honor. So they're like, okay, let's back up off them a little bit. When we start talking about, well, I'm Camblin Asian, and I'm mixed with this, and I'm Irish and Scottish, mixed with Jamaican, they saw that, and they said, okay, these Negroes are weak, and now we can attack them. So we got to get off that.
Yeah, and that's pretty tough, man. Now that we have kind of a generation of young people, and not to come down on teenagers or millennials or centennials, whatever term they're putting on them now, that are very much super inclusive.
Yeah.
What do you think the future is going to look like, say 20 years from now, when you have a whole bunch of people that, despite us getting knocked over the head, killed by police, blatant racism, that a lot of these young people are like, oh, I don't see color, or yada, yada, this and that.
Well, they're feeling the effects of it because a lot of the young people are being attacked by these race soldiers and police and all that. So they're going to feel the effect no matter if they're going to be in denial about it or not. So it's best to understand what you're in, the system you're in, so you can come up with solutions to counter that. See, a lot of young people, they get the interracial sex thing dangled in front of them. And that's how they lure us into this whole we're all inclusive thing. We think we're going to get some exotic sex from other people. And we got to get off that nonsense because that's a trick bag. Just because somebody will lay up with you sexually, that doesn't mean they're not going to get out that bed and practice anti-black racism. There was a football player, I can't think of his name, but he just proposed to his white girlfriend.
The Chicago Bears player.
Yeah. What's his name? You know his name?
I ain't watched the NFL in a minute.
Yeah, this big juicy coon.
Damn.
This is a big old coon, big old plantation buck, and they found some of her tweets. She's just going in on black folks. And he's wiping her up. So we will let people disrespect us, call us all types of names, racially antagonize us. But if we think we can get some interracial sex out the game, we'll let all that slide. This is why so many of us, our sisters, go into these Asian beauty salons and get the crap beat out of them and still go. We got to really get our self-esteem game together.
Definitely. I'm glad you brought that up. Perfect segue. Have you heard of this slave play?
Yes.
And
yes.
I automatically assumed it was somebody that wasn't black who actually wrote the play,
Slave
but it is
play. Please hip us and
it
our
is
readers
a play
to this.
by a guy named Jeremy O'Harris, who is a brother. That is I'm assuming it's about sexuality, race, and gender, but it's. As soon as I saw black women slaves twerking in front of master, I was done. I didn't need to look any deeper into it or whatnot. But the cold part about it is the play won the Rosa Parks Playwright Award and the Lorraine Hansberry Playwriting Awards. Won a ton of awards.
Yeah, and those awards are backed up by white money, by the way. See, we got to be very clear, because I looked that up. The Rosa Parks Award is only like $1,000. But that's backed up by these white corporations, and that play is funded by white corporations. You got always look at where the money comes from. Where's this brother? Because they'll put a black person out there for the bullshit, but they don't tell you where the money is coming from. Who's funding? It costs a lot of money to put on a Broadway play, just to rent the venues and all that stuff. So where's that money coming from? The fact that they will negate putting money into constructive things for black society, jobs, housing, adequate medical care. We got to beg for that stuff. But all of a sudden, here comes millions of dollars for a damn play about slaves twerking for massa. And all of a sudden, that gets funded, and it's getting rave reviews from the New York Times and all these people. That's a trick bag they always run on us, and they put a black face on there, but always look at the person who's propping up that black face.
Yeah, man. I couldn't believe
that's filthy. That's disgusting. We should call that out all the time, because they would never do something where there's a Nazi concentration camp and you got the victims of the Nazis twerking. You even come up with something like that on paper, you'll get shut down.
Right.
You 1,000% right about that.
It's like being that like you're in the media. You know what I'm saying? You have a very successful we're calling it podcast now. You know, so you have the Melanoid Nation. You have a series of documentaries. Do you think that right now black media is strengthening right now, or kind of just stalemate? I see stuff that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? I haven't bought into his concept quite yet, but I see what folks like Sean White are trying to build. You know what I'm saying? Do you think
Sean King.
Sean
White,
skateboarder.
I was about to say, goddamn, Sean White doing
Sean King,
Sean White.
Snowboard, skateboard, black media. Got gold medals, red, black, and green medallions, everything.
Shout out to Sean King. Yeah, I feel you.
I see things like that happening, which aren't necessarily like a lot of times. We had stuff like what Magic Johnson did and Puffy, but that's always the entertainment side. We're actually seeing like more media come up with like, no, we tackling issues and talking about real shit. Do you think black media is strengthening right now? What do you see the future of black media?
I think it is, because you got people like me, you got brothers like Boyce Watkins, my brother up in New York, Sarnetta, you got Jason Black, the Black Authority, Professor Black Truth, Neely Fuller. You have a lot of us who are giving information out from a perspective that's going to really empower black society. And what you're going to notice, a lot of us are going to start being attacked more because of that. So I think it is strengthening, and a lot of people are listening to us and they're taking heed to it, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like YouTube, and I know a lot of times you've talked about YouTube kind of tripping on bringing stuff down. I know a lot. We had a political pundit on very across the board talking about both sides of the fence and tried to buy ads to promote the show, and they wouldn't let us buy ads.
Wow.
Yeah, it said, because it's political. I was like, we're not promoting either candidate. What, how is this political? So it's kind of crazy. Like, it's not an ad. So do you feel like I guess the better question is, since we have, all these platforms that are owned by other people, that's not us, like, what is the best way to be able to get the message out and keep the message from being sanitized?
There's a couple of ways. One thing, we've got to start creating our own platforms. I tried to create one platform called More Us. It needed more work. I didn't realize it took so much money to create a social media platform, and I'm going to go to the drawing board back on that because we really need that. Another thing we can do, family, we could start just really codifying our language, and I learned how to do that to get away from a lot of the censorship, because these platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, they'll look for keywords that we talk about and try to censor us based on that. So we start codifying our words and using a lot of code words like white supremacists do. They use a lot of code words to get away with stuff. We got to start doing the same. The problem is when we use code words, too many Negroes try to act like goddamn translators and tell the white people what we're talking about. Niggas, shut up.
Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, they want to be the damn Urban Dictionary and explain what we mean. Y'all got to get off that. That's another thing. Y'all get off translating and being the damn jungle guide for white people. Every time we try to have a conversation, you got to be there telling them and translating. Cut that out.
Yeah, you definitely right about that, man. Maurice mentioned some of the documentaries. I know you have been talking about. You've already started doing Hidden Colors 5.
Oh, yeah.
So where are you at with that, and when do you think we can expect it out?
Yeah, Hidden Colors 5, we're editing that now. That's going to be out by June. That one's going to be a monster. We got everybody.
That's
in
the
that
last one still,
Yeah, that's
right?
That's the last Hidden Colors documentary. I'm going to still do documentaries, but we're just going to close out the Hidden Colors series because that's going to be 5. And I don't want to be like Friday the 13th and, 20.
Fast and the Furious.
Yeah. So,
Hidden Colors, Malcolm versus Marlon.
Yeah. So HC5, we're going to close it out real heavy, and that's going to be in theaters all around the world. We got James Small. We got a lot of new faces. We got Chuck D from Public Enemy. He's in it. Shahrazad Ali, she's back in it, killing him. We got Ice-T. He's in it. He's breaking down, because we're talking about a lot of stuff that went down in L.A. and the gangs and how the drugs and all that tied in. I got Freeway Ricky Ross. He's in it. Right. So this one's going to be real heavy, and that's coming in June.
I want to know, starting off on Hidden Colors, a lot of people knew you strictly from, this is the Mac advice, man. This is Mac. It's like, did you run into a lot of challenges when you were, approaching these scholars, I'm doing this, Yeah. I know you may know me from the books and this kind of content, but, I'm serious about this, I'm doing that. Did you run into a lot of challenges trying to get people that were from that world to take you seriously with what you were trying to accomplish?
Well, the thing is, I didn't, because a lot of those scholars, a lot of folks weren't even utilizing them at the time. Remember, a lot of these folks that you see now, nobody was really doing anything with these people. These people were really popping back in the day, and they were brilliant, but so many people from the so-called conscious community just kind of let these people fall by the wayside. And I saw them, and I saw how thorough they were, and Dr. Welsing, she was one of my idols. Shahrazad Ali was one of my idols. So I wanted to get these people and bring them up to the forefront. And they were down. They had no problem with it whatsoever. So I put out Hidden Colors because there was no other movie like that before Hidden Colors. Nothing like it. And then when it came out, it just took off.
Yeah, for sure. What do you have I don't know, it might be too early to say because each one has a subtitle or an underlying theme.
Yeah, this one is about warfare. We're talking about black warfare and the history of how we've protected ourselves, the history of how we fought, and how we're dealing with warfare just outside of the military standpoint, because warfare doesn't always mean, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Military is psychological. They use warfare. Warfare is psychological. Warfare can be used in the medical field. There's a lot of medical warfare that's going on that we need to understand with vaccines, with these damn flu shots that's killing people. Financial warfare. I mean, right here, this is Atlanta. Y'all got the CDC down here. We're talking about the CDC and all the stuff they've been involved in, like the Atlanta child murders. They were in the mix of that. Yeah. We're breaking all this stuff down, and we got to understand there's corporate warfare. This thing is real heavy.
So now, are you done filming with everything?
We're done filming. We're just editing right now.
Gotcha.
So yeah, we're done with all the filming. So
most definitely. I'm curious to know because I always wanted. You speak on it, but it would be dope if you dropped a list of books that you did to research for each of the films. I think that would pretty be ill. What kind of stuff were you reading to do research for this? Because that's a pretty niche topic.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I did books, but I actually went to the places that I talked about. When I talked about We talked about ancient Kemet. I've been to the pyramids. I've been inside the pyramids. I studied over there in the museums. When we talk about Africans in Asia, I went to Asia. I was all over Malaysia, Thailand, and I went to these villages where there's jet black people with big-ass afros. When we talked about the Moors in Spain, I've been to almost all the Moorish castles in Spain, so I actually went to the places to study. And also, I studied books by J.A. Rogers, John Henry Clark. There's so many, Dr. Welsing's books, Shahrazad Ali's books. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a brother named Robin Walker, who's brilliant out of the UK. He was in Hidden Colors 4. So with my films, I like to have the scholars to bring the receipts, and then I like to bring a lot of people who are popular in pop culture, like the David Banners. David Banner, he's in Hidden Colors 5 too. I had Killer Mike in HC4. I had Nas in HC3. Had KRS-One in HC2. So that's the only type of film that has that type of mix of people, because all of us should have a certain level of consciousness. We think a conscious person should be walking around with dookie braids and a dashiki, eating some jollof rice or some bullshit or whatever. All of us should have a level of consciousness, because people in the dominant society, they have a level of white empowerment. So we have to have a level of black empowerment that goes all across the board.
1,000%, for sure. Do you think that we'll get to a point, especially because you're closing out the series, where you'll do a streaming deal for Hidden Colors so people can see it wherever?
Yeah, they can stream it on the website now.
Well, I mean, on a large scale. I remember we talked about, I don't even know if it was on the air or off the air, talking about the bogus deals that Netflix offers as far as wanting ownership and you can't go nowhere else for so many years and all of that. But just to get it out to black folk that ain't exactly paying attention.
Right, if they want to do a decent deal, I'm always open for that. But, with something like Hidden Colors, the mainstream media, they try to ignore it, but they really can't. Because if they acknowledge it, that means that people are going to demand more movies like that. So they think if they're going to ignore it, it's just going to fall by the wayside, and the reverses happen. It becomes its own niche market, and it becomes more successful than the stuff that they put out. Remember, when we put out the Hidden Colors films, they outsell documentaries from major studios. It's like the #1 documentary on Amazon and all the selling platforms. And I mean #1 all across the board. So they try to ignore that. But what they'll do, they understand the importance and the power of it, so they'll try to snatch a little bit off of it and do their movies like Hidden Figures. That's what Don't think that was a coincidence that they did Hidden Figures. Nike put out a shirt a few years ago. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that shirt.
Called Hidden Images, and it looked just like the cover of Hidden Colors too. And we almost sued them.
Because LeBron was wearing it too.
So LeBron was wearing it, exactly. It was
I remember that came out. I was like, LeBron been watching Hidden Colors.
Exactly. Yeah. Then they pulled it because we're about to sue them, so they pulled it. They don't have it no more.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, man, and you talked a little bit about it. What are your thoughts on? Because I know Cap is your man. What are your thoughts on the Nike campaign and whatnot?
That's a great thing. That was a great thing, and I'm glad that Nike's recognizing they're going to be on the right side of history. He has some shoes that's coming out; they're going to go through the roof. So that was a good thing. He doesn't really need to play anymore. He's solidified his position in history now.
Right.
So I think him going back to the league would almost be a step backwards, because he's there. He's in a zone now, just like Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre really doesn't have to put out an album. He's set in stone. This is why Dr. Dre doesn't put out a lot of albums.
Yeah.
Because if he puts out an album and it's not where he's going to be, that will diminish a brand that he already has. He already has a brand of being the best producer. So if he just kind of chills, he can live with that. Yeah. So Cap, in his position, I think he can just chill and just live off that.
As a brother that's verbal about how you feel and putting it out there, how do you feel about him being extremely particular in the things that he speaks on? Because I know some cats who are mutual friend, who shall remain nameless, who feels like he supports the movement, but because Cap hasn't came out and said anything verbatim, that he I don't know where the man stands, I can't, yada, yada, yada. How do you feel about that?
Look, because I've talked to Cap and I've tried to get him to be in Hidden Colors 5. I wanted him to be in that, and so he wouldn't do it. I begged him, I called him over and over again. So he's not doing no media, which is good. Yeah. Because anything he says, he knows they're going to take it out of context and flip it and spin it. So I think I respect his position of just kind of being neutral and not saying anything and just do his activism work silently.
I respect. I mean, speak with actions.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, man. we're going into 2019, man, and we're still dealing with a lot of the things that we was dealing with going into 2018.
Not more.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say that brothers and sisters can do going into the new year that can help us overcome some of this bullshit? We've already spoke on we need to be on code, which, each of us individually can do that. But outside of that, what else can we do in order to get over some of these humps that we deal with?
Well, we got to start being more business-minded. We got to be business-oriented because black folks, we got to handle business better. We let other people handle business for us, and we get into this whole thing where we just kind of want to party and bullshit. So we got to start handling business. We also got to get our money game together. We got to understand how money works, and we have to aggregate our money to get stuff done. Do you see what they did with Trump? Trump is talking about building that wall. They didn't raise like
$3 million, I think.
Like in what, a day?
Yeah.
Yeah. To build this wall for Trump. Trump couldn't get any, they can't fund it through the government. So his supporters are getting that wall money together. And then these crazy white supremacists will get $1 billion by the end of the week. They so crazy. And, I ain't mad at them for funding something that they believe in. We got to start doing that. We don't want to fund stuff that we believe in. We want other people to fund it for us, and we'll use our money to turn up and trick it off and all this. So we got to start aggregating our money to things that's going to benefit us. Particularly, we need to use our money to get politicians in our pocket. This is why we need to start learning how to work with super PACs and stuff like that in order to give the politicians so they can have a black agenda. That's why the politicians, like the sister here, the LGBT community gave her some money and they backed her. That's why she was caping for the LGBT issue. So we got to understand that part of the game. And we got to understand that black people, we have no friends. We have to look to each other and be our own friends. Other groups are not going to help us. They're not going to do anything to benefit us. Everything we do with them, it is us caping for them so that they can empower themselves. We got to get off that. We've done enough for everybody. We got to get off that kumbaya, that magic Negro nonsense, and start doing things for us as a community.
Got you. Well, you brought up Stacey Abrams and Gillum, and speaking on voting, and I completely understand that. How do we? Because I think it's easy to say most people aren't going to understand what a super PAC is. Most people don't understand how lobbying systems work. So we have even more elections coming up next year. So how do we get in a position where you, me, Jay Black is producing, you got millionaire friends, I got millionaire friends. How do we sit down and say, look, we have this candidate running in this county. These are the things we want done. How do we present this person with our support and say, listen, we're going to put this much money into your campaign. When you get elected, we need you to do this. How does that work?
We do it the same way we do to the stripper. When her booty is bent over, we pull our money out. I want you to slap them cheeks together, and here's the money. We know how to give up our money for some bullshit. We want to smoke something. We know how to give the dude at the trap house that money to get that loud. When we want to get some rims, we know how to get that money to get the rims and the candy paint. But when it comes time to get the money to the politicians to do some things in the community, all of a sudden, oh, Lord, where do I go? What do I do? Now we don't know how to get the money.
It's the same concept. It's very simple. Like sometimes you even just, if you got it like that, I've seen folks, they just go ahead and send the money any damn way. But like, all right, now pick up the phone.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Or you got to give me this money back, or down the line, you know what I'm saying? A news report going to come out saying you took money from me any damn way.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
My man Dame Dash, a friend of mine, Dame, when it was Rockefeller Records, they would, the infamous stories, and I'm not dry snitching on them, they would go to the radio stations with a bag of money and say, here, play our record. It's just that simple. You don't have to, maneuver and sneak or whatever. Money talks, and if you got it to give, the people who need it, they will find you. It's that simple.
Yeah, most definitely, man. What you always got things popping off, man. What you got planned for 2019? Hidden Colors in June.
Yeah, we're doing that, Hidden Colors. I've been trying to decide on another documentary to do after Hidden Colors. I've been wanting to do something about the life of Frances Cress Welsing.
That would be incredible.
That would be amazing because I want everybody to know how brilliant that sister was.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks don't know her story like that. Another thing I wanted to do a documentary about North Sentinel Island. Remember the island that the dude got killed recently? And I don't want to trivialize anybody getting killed, but I've always wanted to do a documentary about that island of those black people who are on code. Yeah. Those people have a code. That's why they've never been conquered. Mm-hmm. Their code is you bring your ass on this island, you're going to die right now on site. That's the code. So we understand how heavy a code is when everybody's on the same page. Nobody will mess with you.
Yeah, that's definitely. So both of those would be pretty incredible.
Yeah,
man.
So I'm trying to decide, between that and there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to do as far as documentaries. But, I try to be as creative as possible. That's why, we did the Mink Slide project. You know, that was something that I never did before. I've done movies, I've done books, and I said, I haven't had a record on Billboard. We did an album. The album was like number 12 on Billboard when it came out.
Yeah, man. Your people support, bro.
Yeah.
300.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, it's more than 300 though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
For sure. Most of it. Any chance that you're going to get back into the scripted game?
Yeah, I am. There's a movie that we already have that I wanted to film down in Miami. It's like a crime thriller. So I want to make out some time to shoot that movie too. Right. We did a movie here in Atlanta. We did a movie called The Eugenists.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Horror joint.
Yeah, I forgot what the name of the school was. It was a school that's like right off I-20. I can't think of the name of it, but yeah, we did that. We had a good time doing that. We had to get some janky people because it's like a zombie movie,
right?
And a lot of motherfuckers can't act, so we were on a budget, so we had to get some low budget zombies out here. So we had to get a couple of meth addicts to be the zombies out here.
Man, please tell folks how they can get these tickets, man, and how they can follow you and support what you're doing.
Yeah, you guys go to minkslide.com. We're performing this Saturday, Center Stage Theater. Is going to be off the chain, minkslide.com.
Dope. And before we get out of here, just want to let y'all know, make sure that you're following us on Day One Radio. That is DAY, the number one radio. We are giving away 2 tickets to the Midnight Hour show on 1229 at aisle 5. So that's Adrian Young and Ali Shaheed Muhammad from Tribe Called Quest. If y'all are not familiar, that is the Midnight Hour. The show is on the 29th, so make sure you follow us on IG. Tag a friend that you would like to go with you, and we'll pick a winner a couple days before the show, man. It should be a real good time. I think I'm going to slide through and check it out as well, man. But we appreciate you coming through, brother.
Anytime.
Always a pleasure.
Man.
Always a pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. We appreciate y'all listening, appreciate y'all watching. This is our last show for the year. So make sure that y'all, be safe out here during these holidays. Don't burn up the house trying to fry no turkey. Make sure your Christmas tree is watered. All y'all done seen that scary ass video on social media. And don't drink and drive on New Year's Eve, man. We'll see you in 2019. Peace.